Hi everyone. Today I'll present our CVPR 2026 paper, Dig Ye Divide, Then Ground, a training-free frame selection framework for long-form video understanding. This is joint work with my collaborators at Microsoft Research Asia and Tsinghua University. The 5-minute version, we look at how large multimodal models pick frames from long videos. We find that the right strategy depends on the query, and we build a method around that observation. Here is the setting. A large multimodal model receives a long video and a query, but because of context length limits, it can only see a small sampled subset of frames. The default choice is uniform sampling. People have assumed that more frames is always better. We tested this on 3 benchmarks, MLVU, Video MME, and Long Video Bench, with 3 open-source LMMs. The result, on the right, is counterintuitive. Performance first goes up, but then plateaus or drops as we sample more frames. So simply adding frames is not the answer. The natural follow-up question is, why does that happen? Our answer is that there are really 2 kinds of queries hiding inside these benchmarks. Global queries, on the left, ask about the whole video, for example, what title best summarizes this video? Localized queries, on the right, ask about a specific moment, for example, what kind of bike is the man riding? These 2 query types have completely different information needs. A global query wants a wide, evenly spread view of the video. A localized query wants a tight zoom on the right segment. Existing benchmarks lump them together, but the optimal sampling strategy for them is fundamentally different. Once we separate the 2 types, the data tells a clean story. The chart plots accuracy change relative to a baseline as the number of uniformly sampled frames grows. Global queries, in blue, stay stable. Uniform sampling already gives them what they need. Localized queries, in red, degrade significantly with more frames, because the extra frames are mostly noise that drowns out the one segment that actually matters. The conclusion is twofold. For global queries, expensive frame search is wasted effort. For localized queries, query-aware selection is essential. A single sampling strategy cannot be optimal for both. Dig operationalizes this insight. Given a video and a query, we first ask a small LLM to classify the query as global or localized. If it is global, we just uniformly sample, fast and effective. If it is localized, we enter a 3-stage targeted pipeline. First, content adaptive frame selection picks a compact set of representative frames we call R-frames. Second, an LMM scores each R-frame for relevance to the query. Third, a reward-guided refinement step builds a condensed video from only the relevant segments, and we uniformly sample our final input frames from that refined video. The entire framework is training-free. Let me unpack CAFS, the first stage. We sample the video at 2 frames per second and extract DNOV2 features per frame. We compute cosine distance between consecutive frames, and we look for prominent peaks in this distance signal. Peaks correspond to scene cuts or large content changes. These peaks naturally segment the video into visually coherent chunks. From each chunk we keep just the midpoint frame as an R-frame. So instead of fixed rate or uniform sampling, CAFS adapts to the actual content, more R-frames where the video changes a lot, fewer where it is static. This gives us a compact but semantically faithful summary, regardless of video length. Stage 2 is reward assignment. Instead of using CLIP score, which only does shallow text-image matching, we let the LMM itself score each R-frame. We prompt it for 2 complementary signals, direct usefulness of the frame for the query, and whether the frame hints that adjacent frames carry useful context. Stage 3 then turns these rewards into a refined video. We iteratively threshold rewards against their own mean, dropping below average frames until the set stabilizes. This is parameter-free, no top K to tune. We then expand each surviving R-frame into its surrounding segment, take the union, and uniformly sample our final input frames from that compressed, query-relevant video. Now the results. Across MLVU, Long Video Bench, and Video MME, on both Qwen 2.5 VL7B and 32B, Dig consistently beats uniform sampling and the strong baselines AKS and Q-frame. At 32 input frames on the 7B model, we gain 7.7 points on MLVU and 4.5 points on Long Video Bench over uniform sampling. The red cells in this table mark cases where a baseline is worse than plain uniform sampling. You can see AKS and Q-frame have several red cells, especially at high frame counts. Dig has none. We also keep scaling. where uniform sampling saturates around 62.5% accuracy on long video bench, dig keeps improving as we push frames up to 256. To summarize, the key takeaway is that frame selection is not one problem, it is two problems disguised as one. By identifying the query type first, dig spends compute only where it actually helps, gets consistent gains across benchmarks and model sizes, and scales gracefully to 256 input frames. Code is on GitHub. Thank you, happy to take questions.